Konami Studios.
The Department of Truth, issue number 9. Oh man, where to even begin on this one? I say it every time because this book just always makes me feel things of jealousy. It's rare I'm jealous about a creator because I'm like, I have my own stories to tell, but this is a story I want to tell. It's just so good. It's such a well-made story. I love it. I love every second of this. It's intense. So a lot happens in this issue in particular, and I'm going to do my best to get through it. It's hard to cover just because it's dense and it's thick, and it's just like, how do you even penetrate into this skin of this thing? Because it's dealing with so much. Each issue deals with a lot, but this one in particular, I was like, how do you talk about this? Because it's literally everything. It's insane. But before that, we do have a little bit of a preamble story here where we see a random figure talking to a young version of Cole. And like I said, and like we saw in the last issue, I should say, we saw that these people, the Department of Truth, were setting up Cole to be the one who creates the Star-Faced Man. So we see this figure talking to him and how this like weird creature, and how the teacher would force them into the basement behind, like the dresser. When they go down, they see this man in a weird coat eating babies, and he'd say you have to like fill your plate and you have to clean your plate. It has to be clear before you can leave. And we see that Hawke Harrison, who we saw in the last issue, is a guy that does a lot of the stuff for the Department of Truth where he builds these conspiracies, is talking to somebody called Patsy. Because Patsy's like the person you blame when it all goes down. And the kid made like a really crude drawing, I should say, of the Star-Faced Man, and Hawke's like, I can't work with this. We'll have to make a better version so the kid can draw something better. And we see Hawke is the one who's setting up Cole to go down this path of creating the Star-Faced Man. I genuinely love it. And we see that the way we're going to do this is we're going to put subliminal messaging in his television. And I don't know why, right away my mind went to like the old Simpson gag where you see like the boy band or the pop singers on TV and it's like join the Navy. I don't know, this just reminded me of that. So every like Saturday morning, when we see Cole going to watch cartoons, they're going to have like one brief glimpse of the Star-Faced Man show up on like the TV just for a little bit. And once we see Cole gets in there, we're going to like release it to other places around the world, maybe in Oklahoma, maybe in Washington. And it's suddenly going to build up this myth that the Star-Faced Man is connected to something happening at this school, and it's going to be the satanic panic, and all this weird, crazy stuff is going to come back. We're just building up the mythos, and it all starts with Cole. And I'm like, this is deep and creepy and weird. It's weird. It's frightening even. It's disturbing. I love it. I love every second of this. Like they're setting up Cole to be the one that creates this myth that he's been fearing his whole life because he didn't know if it was real. And now it is real because he made it and they forced him to make it. And you're like, damn, that's creepy. Why are we doing this to this guy? So we cut to the present day, and basically, the rest of the story is a walk-in talk between Hawke Harrison and Cole, which isn't a complaint. Cole wakes up in his hotel room. Hawke's already there looking at his stuff. He's like, man, you're with this guy? Look at your husband. He's a grower, not a shower. Am I right? And basically, there's an underlying just like vagueness to Hawke's like the way Hawke treats like Cole because he's gay. And I don't think it's like from a place of like negativity, because I think he's just like an asshole. He just talks like a douchebag. And I don't think that's bad. Like he's a decent guy-ish. He's supposed to be an asshole, but it works. And as they're having this walk and talk, the idea comes into play. Okay, what is magic? Or do you believe in magic? And Cole's like, in what context? And what do you mean? What could it be? And we see Hawke's like, all right, pick a card. Cole picks one up. He's like, you see, you picked up this card. You can put it back in the deck. And there's like a million ways I could tell you what your card is. That's not magic. That's just like knowing how to like figure shit out. That's not magic. So we see that the card was the 9 of clubs. And then Cole's kind of like, oh, 9 of clubs. Well, 9 is a number. Trinity's Trinity. That could mean good luck. And there's all this other information that leads to like, okay, obviously you know a thing or two about that, and we realized that Cole might have a history of being able to read a certain amount of tarot cards, which is kind of a fascinating place to believe. And you're just like, okay, what else do you got in store for me? And like I said, I'm going to do my best to break down kind of what we're seeing here. First off, we see that Hawke makes Cole carry a suitcase with them where they go, with the American flag on it, and that's kind of like going to come back later towards the end of the story. But it's just like, okay, what are we really setting up here? Now, it's dense, and I'm going to try to penetrate it in a way that's possible. Basically, because I saw James talking about it on his Twitter too. This is about the belief of magic, and if magic is real, and kind of how magic connects to the concept of religion. And does magic connect to religion? Of course. So it's like the early magicians started to like see symbols. They'd put symbols with stories, and they'd create story in context that way. And that's how you'd get things like a god. It's kind of like how, okay, this culture viewed the sun as this being or this thing, and this culture viewed the sun as this thing or this thing, but there was only ever one sun. So how did that happen? How did these two cultures see the same thing, but create different identities? And basically, it's like, that's why we had all these different religions, and that's why during a certain point in time, the Christianity started to unfold and the pagans started to take over, and that's when everything kind of got crazy. They had like these concepts, they created this identity of what evil is based off the concerns of other religions and other beliefs, because it all comes back to the symbol. When you can put something on a symbol, that has more weight than the actual thing you're seeing. So if we can make the symbol the devil, like the horned beast, then we've created an anti-thing, and then suddenly it builds up Christianity to be this bigger thing. But during that time, you always have people having this need to rebel, and that's kind of where this idea of the Freemasons come in. Are you following me? Because it's really complicated, and it's just like, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So we have like Christianity taking a big hold, being like the leading force in the entire world. There's always people opposing it. The Freemasons, the ones that speak their own mind to do these different things, and all these different identities and symbols are created representing different parts of the stuff. We get a page seeing all these different symbols that each represent a different part of humanity, of religion, of Christianity even, and it's all that kind of stuff. It's just really dense way of looking at what religion is and how it was created. It's kind of fascinating. And then we get this idea that there was this one man who wanted to kind of like go against the norms and kind of get away from all that stuff, because as society progressed, this idea of doing like bad things, going against the grain of the normal person, became this associated kind of like the wealthy and the 1% and the top idea, like the high society folks. But there was one man named Crowley who saw things in a different way. He went against the order. He tried to look at things through a different lens and experiment and really try to figure out what the world was being said, or what the world is saying to him and to everyone. And when you have that, you can shape reality into different things. And because that is being built up, now we have other things that you can consider part of magic, and magic encompasses all this other stuff. It's not just religion, and now we're building up this base. We have a symbol of evil. It's like the devil. And then look at what we created through science fiction. We have creatures like Dracula and Frankenstein, and even H.P. Lovecraft creating his mess of a world, all these different stuff. And then we have different cultures, like these Oriental cultures and these Egyptian cultures building up their own mythos and these identities with these things that go against the standard pagan rituals that eventually would become modern Christianity. And all these different identities being made that are all connected because one person thought of a symbol and that symbol gave it semblance. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about here? It's deep and creepy. And I'm just like, there's so much going on. It's hard to penetrate this. Like I said, this is the first time in this story I'm like, okay, we're steering away from like the government and like the earlier stuff of the story. And now you're just like, it's all connected because one guy saw symbols one time, created this thing, and then another group of people was like, this symbol means something different to me. I'm going to create a different symbol to represent what you did to make that evil. And I'm like, whoa, slow down a second here, James. You sold me on the story. You don't have to get any more dense. I get it. But basically, what Hawke is trying to say to Cole is there is one big religion over top of all the other ones, and that is what the symbol itself was. The first symbol, like the first thing people saw, that is a thing that has inspired everything to come from it, because when you have that identity in the form of that, you can create magic from it, and the magic is what people use to create everything in the world. Whoa. Okay. So now they're at a bar, he's like the homophobic remarks aside, we still see things being created. Let's get back to Crowley. Crowley was this guy again. He started to look at things differently. He created a book, and he's like, we have to get from this old age into this new age. And it's like the old age of Orosius and then the new age of Horus, and basically everything that he boiled down to came to this one semblance of a sentence. It was like he saw like this scarlet woman called Babylon, and I'm pretty sure it's the woman that's been on the variant cover for every issue of the book. And this is what kind of distilled down to what happened with Crowley. This is his kind of like his motto. This is what the New Age was. Do what thou wilt shall be whole of the law. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. What does that mean exactly? I think it just pretty much means you do what you want and you get what you want. If you create it, it's there, man. Wish you wanted to do it. It's like, whoa, take it easy. And Cole's like, wait, the Scarlet Woman, like he saw her. He's like, yeah, that's great, kid. All this stuff, it's all connected, man. You see, everything's coming full circle. Even Crowley started to understand everything that was happening there, and he became a man who was involved in every big event in history. Then we see Crowley emerging at places in politics, history. He's with Hitler, he's with Churchill, he's on the opposing sides trying to win, do the right thing in each one. But he's just a scary man, and you know what? It's just like, whoa, okay. He saw the New Age coming, and this is the New Age that it is. This is the law, this is everything we've created. And Cole's just like, I'm done with this. You're just like, what are you trying to say? What does any of this have to do with why I'm here? What is the point of me being a part of any of this? And Hawke is like, yeah, man, what is the point of all of this? What is religion? What is happening right now? All of it is crazy. There's just so much weird stuff. It's just so dense. It's just like, whoa, take it down a notch maybe. This is where I'm like, okay, here's everything Hawke is trying to say to Cole. This is the talk about the science fiction and the religion and Crowley and everything. It all starts from the one thing. It's a continuation. It's all about like symbols and powers and how meaning affects everything differently, and how everyone views something differently, but there's a basis for that, and then that basis comes to different power. When the power is opposing to the one that you seize and control, new things are created, and through the new things, we have a new thing form. Everything is a circle. It all comes back to one thing. It's all magical. It's basically just like the way the world works. Everything just kind of flows, and it's just like a river, man. It just bends and moves, and everything is just insane. It's like, whoa. And then we get like an example. Okay, so take for right now, Hawke is like, right now, I can go on the computer and find this information for everything. And I used to, back in the day, I needed a bunch of people to do this, but now I can like go on the news. I can see, like, I can shape the American dream or like the ideal based on one thing that could happen. And I do this every day. And he's like, well, what are you talking about there, Hawke? He's like, well, turn on the news. And we see that the briefcase was sent to the Denver International Airport and the bomb went off. And you're like, you bombed it? Yep. Now I'm rewriting the history. So whatever people see in the catacombs of the Denver International Airport, it might not be there. It's a twist on the name. All that because of the explosion. Don't you see? It's all connected to things happening before. It's a symbol. The explosion is a symbol. The airport's a symbol. Everything comes back to it, Cole. You got to focus on what this is. You're like, okay. But before Hawke gets up to leave, Cole asks him a question like, what is this? Does Lee Harvey Oswald believe any of this? And he's like, well, in what context? And he's like, well, kind of, you know. And we get some really fascinating information here on what Lee believes. And it's really fascinating. So it's like back in 1967, Lee and Doc Haynes, they tried to create their own like UFO thing of their own to like kind of like scare some people in West Virginia into believing one thing happened. And when they tried to do this, it didn't go as planned, and 46 people died at the result of a bridge accident. Now, I love this because if this book wasn't already right up my alley, 67, West Virginia, bridge accident, 46 people dead. Did Lee Harvey Oswald create the Mothman? We see like the reflection of the guy in the back. I'm like, they did. You son of a gun. Did he really create the Mothman? Okay. 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 James Tynan IV, you just gotta slow down, man. You're just too good at whatever this is. Just take a minute to breathe, dude. I love every second of this book. So it just kind of ends with Hawke walking out of the room. He's like, you know what, man? There's a story to tell there. There's only 3 people who have seen the Scarlet Woman. It's you, it's Lee, and it's Ruby. He's like, that's not my story to tell, kid, but I'm sure you guys were put together because you saw all that stuff. And maybe when you do that, you'll figure out what she wants to do with this country. And that's where the book ends. And I tried to explain it the best I could. I really did. But honestly, more than any other issue of this run, this is the one where I'm like, this is a lot to take in. You are dealing with a lot of themes here. And it's kind of like the magic is the symbol is the magic. It all comes back and connects to the one thing. We associate it with like the individual. We also associate it with the collective. And I'm like, okay. Rewriting the narratives there, Hawke Harrison. Very scary and very intense, but it's still a very solid issue. It's very scary and fun. Martin Simmons' art is just gorgeous and breathtaking, and I hope this book continues into some big and interesting areas, because it's just fascinating to see what can be created when you take a different approach to a comic. It's just insane, the stuff we can play with. So I hope that was enough to kind of like get you to understand what is the narrative at this moment. If it's not, go read the book. If you haven't read it already, listening to this review, go read it anyways. It's worth your time and the effort. I think it's a very, very strong book. So, The Department of Truth, issue number 9, I am going to give a 9 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff, and I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.